Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 7 in the Lawn to No Dig Garden series. In this episode, I'll give you a quick update on how my compost is coming along and share the method I like to use for composting as I turn a few of my piles. I've been building these piles up slowly over the last month or so, as and when materials have become available, and I've decided to turn them now for a couple of reasons. So, firstly, the last lot of grass clippings I put onto these got absolutely saturated before I got the lids on the bins, and it's now gone anaerobic. Secondly, I have a feeling the middle of the smaller pile is either too dry from not adding enough water when I was building the pile, or it has too much carbon in it as the temperature of the pile has noticeably dropped off over the last week. Now, you might be wondering, why do those two things matter? And to answer that, I'll bring you back to what I believe should be your goal when composting, and that is growing microbes. And if you're hot composting like me, that means encouraging the growth of aerobic microbes specifically. Now, aerobic microbes have several basic needs to survive, but there are three main ones in particular that we can manipulate in our compost pile to create the right environment to help them thrive and multiply. These are oxygen, water, and a food source. There's plenty of organic material in these piles for the microbes to feed on, so the food source here isn't an issue. The reasons I mentioned earlier for turning the piles have everything to do with the other two key factors we can control, and that is oxygen and water. The top layer that has gone anaerobic is slimy and smelly, which is a clear sign that oxygen hasn't been able to penetrate the material. Without oxygen, the aerobic microbes can't survive and anaerobic microbes will take over. Turning the pile should fix this problem in a few ways. So, turning introduces fresh oxygen to the pile. It'll also break up that wet anaerobic layer of material and it'll mix it with the drier carbon rich browns deeper in the pile. So, this all helps rebalance the conditions in the pile to support aerobic microbe growth rather than anaerobic microbes. Now, the other issue I mentioned about the smaller pile possibly being too dry and cooling off is directly related to the second key factor, water. So, why is water so important? Well, just like plants and animals, microbes need water to survive. It helps them breathe, feed, and grow. Without moisture, they can dry out and slow down or even die off entirely. Water is especially vital for aerobic microbes because it plays a central role in the metabolic process. So, microbes eat the compost materials by breaking them down through chemical reactions, and those reactions can only happen in a moist, water based environment. Without water, they simply can't process the food scraps, leaves, or other organic material that's in your compost pile. As I turned this pile, that became pretty obvious. The center was bone dry, almost dusty, and much of the material looked exactly the same as when I first added it. It hadn't really broken down at all. Now, the reason I didn't add more water when building the pile is because I didn't yet have my rainwater collection system set up. I held off using the tap water because in my area it contains chlorine and fluoride, and chlorine in particular can inhibit microbial activity, which I didn't want. So while turning this pile, and now that I've got my rainwater collection set up, I ended up adding around 50 to 60 litres of water to rehydrate it properly. And I'm happy to report a week later that the temperature in the pile has come back up, which is an encouraging sign the microbes are active again. I'm still planning to turn the piles in a few weeks just to make sure everything's progressing as it should and staying on track. The last question I wanted to answer in this video is, why do I prefer hot composting over the other methods? And really, it comes down to the benefits of hot composting. First of all, hot composting is much faster than other methods. With the right balance of moisture and oxygen and regular turning, a batch can be finished in as little as 1 month. That means I can compost more material in less space and turn over batches more frequently. which is ideal when you're trying to convert a lawn into a no-dig garden and need lots of compost. Secondly, it's just nicer to work with. It's not slimy or smelly while it's breaking down, and at the end of the process, you're left with this beautiful, dark, crumbly compost that's easy to handle and great for your soil. And last but not least, the high temperatures in the hot compost pile help sanitize the compost, killing off pathogens and weed seeds. That means I don't have to be as picky about what goes into the pile. I also think this method pairs really well with the no-dig system. If I'm putting a lot of effort into suppressing weeds when setting up my beds, I don't want to undo that by then adding compost that's full of weed seeds on top. Anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed the compost update. If you did, give the video a like. And if you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing to the channel. There's plenty more to come as this garden transformation continues.